So now what are you doing with yourself now?
Well, I'm the first black woman to start a money management firm solely managing growth equity in the United States. And what I do is I manage portfolios for institutions like police funds or endowments, foundations. And I have a team that works with me. I have a company, and we manage about $750 million for different pension funds and endowments, high net worth, family office kinds of individuals.
Okay, now.
And that is a second career for me, because when I was growing up, business did not seem an option. So,
Wait, what was that an option?
Business.
Was that an option?
No.
What was the first choice?
I was having a hard time choosing. My first choice was theater. And I worked in television and theater for a while, for many years. And I was a producer of a repertory company in Boston. But I remember wanting to go to Yale Drama School. I hadn't really prepared for it, and I was not accepted there. But I learned about 15 years later that they didn't accept women for the directing program, which was something I was interested in. And they accepted hardly any black people either. So I always felt very bad that I hadn't been accepted, but I learned later that it was a very hard bar to get over, because it was a very small program, and they weren't inclined to accept a candidate like me. But you know, I didn't know quite what I wanted to do. My dad really wanted me to go into medicine. He felt medicine or law were about the two things that were open. Teaching, of course, too. But he thought I probably could make a better living if I did medicine or law. And of course, he loved medicine. And he really wanted me to go to the top of any profession that I chose. So that was always the guidance.
Okay, but for a person who did not have necessarily a background in business, how did you get into business and then excel to where you have today?
I went back to school. I was married, had children, and I decided to go back to school and go to business school, which meant that I had to do a lot of tutoring in math again to sort of get up to speed in some of the math, so I could take math and physics, so I could take my test, my GMAT. And then I applied to Columbia and Harvard, and I got into Columbia. And I was told that it would be very hard by a fellow at Harvard to get into Harvard. He said, "This is off the record because you're too old." And, you know, I was in my mid-30s when I did it. So I got an MBA from Columbia, and I went on to Wall Street, working first in the futures market at E.F. Hutton, and then at Merrill Lynch. And I was there about 10 years before I started my own company, which I started right at the end of 1990.
1990?
Mm-hmm.
You know, okay, as you look back, I mean, apparently you were never at any point intimidated about the hurdles that were in front of you.
That's not true. I think I was often intimidated, but I wanted to achieve something. It meant very much to do something. And sometimes I didn't even know how to go about doing it. You know, for instance, I'm in a money management field. I didn't know anything much about money management before I went to business school. And of course, I learned much more once I got to Wall Street. But even then, you know, if you're not in it, you don't know much about it. And it's been a very closed club. It's been a club of generally very wealthy people, because mostly wealthy families have family offices that manage their money. If you look at the Rockefellers, they have a foundation. Many of the very wealthy families in the United States have foundations, and they have family offices. Some are now beginning to manage money for other very wealthy people, and the entry is to have something like $15 or $20 million discretionary that can be managed if you're going to get the money management from some of these family office type situations. They've been able to do a lot of the venture capital, a lot of the leveraged buyout work, plus having tremendous assets in the stock market for a long, long period of time, and having asset allocation and consultants working with them to make sure they achieve the kinds of targets and goals they want to achieve with their money. So it's something that's not, we certainly as a people are not exposed to very often. We don't have the wealth for that, and we don't have the experience. More people are getting it now, and there are more firms that have come up in the field.
Last thing here, you know, a lot of people. Well, let me phrase this way. What is your take on the American dream? I mean, do you think that a person can achieve what they want to achieve primarily by their own initiative and perseverance?
I think it takes a lot of initiative and perseverance. I think it takes some luck as well, sometimes. I mean, it's wonderful if the luck comes in, but I think, and the opportunity, but as everyone says, you usually have to be prepared for the opportunity. And especially if you're black. I mean, I've seen a lot of other people unprepared for the opportunity, but they'll get the opportunity, and they also are able to fail much more than we are able to fail at something, and they can continue to go because there is a network of people helping and the network of support, and I think that's very important. I think I've achieved a lot. I've achieved a lot more than I thought I was going to, I think, and that's been really kind of wonderful. But I've had a lot of help along the way. Also, I haven't done everything by myself. My parents are always very supportive. My present husband has been very supportive and very helpful. My children, you know, it's been, and my former in-laws were helpful as well. So, you know, I can't say I've done everything on my own, but I've looked at things I've wanted to do, and I've tried to do it, and luckily I've had a lot of people saying, go for it, you know.
But this is the last question. You know, what relevance do you see in having a reunion like this? You know, people coming together. You know, why is that important for you?
Well, number one, I love most people here that I know and have grown up with, and it's wonderful to see each other over time, growing and seeing our families and just keeping that connection going. I think it's very important. I think it'll be very sad if that goes away. And it's fascinating to watch how families sort of change and evolve. You know, this used to be the Woodford family reunion. Now it's the Williams Woodford, because there seems to be more Williams now involved than Woodfords. And now we have more Hackleys involved, and it's kind of really fascinating just to see how the continuity, or how things move and evolve. But I think it's vitally important to have a sense of your roots, have a sense of your connections, and be able also to help people or encourage people or do whatever one can as a family member.